Good afternoon. My name is Seth Mayer. I'm the program operator for the Veterans and Military Families Program in the Homeland Security Department. And we're here to talk about that hard-to-reach veteran and helping them reach employment. But to begin, I have a very special guest. Our Commissioner of the Employment Security Department, Cammie Peak, is here to offer some opening messages. Thank you.
Thank you. Really important people are in the seats here. It is not me, but I'm really honored to get to be here with all of you today. We have some veterans in my family. My grandfather served, and there's, I think, a really special call that I have to service that came through watching and learning from them. So I'm really excited at Employment Security Department that we really do strive to offer the best in serving the military community, and those really hard to serve and hard to reach, I think, populations. And I know that probably many of you in the seats today have a relationship there. I think it's an opportunity here for me, and I wanted to share a little bit about our agency's commitment also to transitioning military service members along with their spouses and families and supporting military community at large. Like they all serve, and I think that service and our support to help them not only serves them, it does really help build community, which is really important to me and part of the reason I serve at Employment Security Department. It also really takes all of us, and we connect on, rely on all of you to help us to connect to those hard to serve communities and to find really how to do that outreach. And so that's why today's session is so important. We're really here to meet folks where they're at, and we also have work source locations all over the state. So the team's going to talk to you about that today. I got to visit the Wenatchee office earlier, which is always really fun for me to meet our teams. And it reminds me every single time of just the passion and commitment that the folks in our agency and all the partners that we work with have to the work that they do. I want to just highlight really quickly at Employment Security, we have just adopted a new set of core values. We have 5 values, and I think they're values that not only are important to our agency, but I think they're values that are at the heart of what it takes when we talk about hard to serve communities. Oh, there it is! Like, Seth is like, ta-da! And so when we talk about these values at the heart, is really making sure that everyone has access. And so access is there for everyone. Love. And when we first talked about love at work, people were like, ooh, HR said not to talk about love at work. That is not the kind of love we're talking about, an intimate relationship. We're talking about really extending care and compassion to each other and the people that we serve and showing up in that way. Creating a community, a place of belonging. So that means whether you're an employee or you're someone we're serving, that you feel like you're a part of. It isn't about giving someone a spot at the table. It's about someone being a part of and being able to have actual belonging and coming with who they are. We are serving with equity and really making sure, and I know you all probably see really clearly in the communities that you serve, that not everyone is at the same level and that we really have to hold equity close. And then stewardship in state government, where I come from, we often think about how we're good stewards of a resource. In this case, stewardship is about how we steward all of this and bring all of these values really together to serve in the best way possible. And I think a lot of this is very applicable to the veterans community and particularly hard to reach populations of folks. So I'm really excited today to talk about some of this, but I'm not the best person to talk about any of it because we've got an awesome team here today. I'm going to turn it over to Nino Gray for just a second here and have him introduce himself and share a little bit too.
Oh, can you hear me? Oh man, I don't need it.
It's good that I'm so loud.
So, all right, how y'all doing? I'm Nino Gray. A lot of you I probably already know. I'm an Army veteran. I've done I worked for Wounded Warrior Project, did some suicide prevention with DOD. The last 4.5 years I worked with the Seattle Seahawks, covered our military, first responders, and Make-A-Wish activation. Yes, go Hawks, absolutely. So in this new role as Executive Outreach Officer, I'll be focusing on a lot of outreach that we're doing already within the state. And for that, I'm gonna lean on my DevOps, my leaders, workforce offices, and find out the partnerships that we already have, and then look for gaps in those areas where we can better our systems. And at the same time, supporting those people who are already doing the work. Like I said, I'm gonna be quick, be short with it. I just want to thank you all for your time. I appreciate you. Our emails and stuff will come up here in a second. I ran out of business cards today, but please, reach out to us. If you see a gap, if you see an area, if you see a rural area where people are not being served and there's a population to be served, give us a call. Let me know, email, anything like that. Even if we gotta get in a car and drive over there and take care of it ourselves, we will. But just know that they're in our mind. We're going to those rural areas. We're looking for them. And every day, we're just gonna go more and more harder to make it happen. So, like I said, thank you again, and I appreciate you.
All right, so not only do we help veterans get jobs, we hire a lot of veterans because I know that they are awesome employees like Nino, and so really excited to have him on the team. When we get into this panel, please ask questions, any and all questions. You're not going to stump the panel, I promise. And I just want to really make sure you all know that you're welcome to reach out to ESD, to me, to the team, anytime. It is all about the partnership, how we all work together to serve veterans and really these hard-to-reach individuals. So I think with that, I'm handing it back over to the awesome Seth.
You heard it from her. I'm going to get new business cards. Awesome, Seth. Let's start with that. All right, so we're all here to talk about a couple populations of some of our hardest to reach veterans. Our tribal veteran and the currently incarcerated veteran. And we have some experts of DevOps, Leavers, and Consolidated Veteran Service Representatives that will be up here sharing. They're part of the presentation, and then we're going to move to a panel. My presenters, because this mic is hardwired into that camera, please use the mic when you're talking. I know you all hate it, so good. All right, so
Thanks, boss.
yeah. So with that, we're going to go ahead and begin. Some of the objectives that we're going to try and get done today. I'm hoping to express to you that you're going to achieve an understanding of some of the unique challenges that are being served by the tribal and the currently incarcerated veteran. Hopefully the value is going to be reflected in that the many partners that are involved in working with these populations exist so to help to improve and build that mutually beneficial relationship, and how do they do that? And then finally, how does collaboration with partners and service providers, how does that assist that hardest to reach veteran obtain employment? So with that, we're going to go ahead and start with, we got agenda stuff, you don't care about that, but we got this figured out and timed out right. But we're going to start with our tribal veterans. All right, it's all over to you.
Our veterans, we're focusing on the Yakama Nation and the Colville Reservation tribes collectively. That represents 26 of the Washington Confederated tribes and bands. As you can see by the map, that covers a fairly large population of Native Americans. We're going to talk about key elements that strengthen partnership and establish trust, and we're going to look at existing resources and how they've grown, and talk about some of the outcomes. And with that, I'll pass it on.
All right. Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. I'm a CBSR Consolidated Veteran Service Representative for WarSource over at the Yakama Nation. Just real quick, I'm also indigenous. I'm a full-blooded Mayan and really proud of it. My Spanish is a little off, and my Mexican brothers and sisters, they wonder what I mean when I'm saying things, but it's all the same. It's all good food. But so at the Yakama Nation, we have been building. Just blessed to be working there. Very fortunate to be working inside the nation itself, and that is the missing relationship. That's the key element that's been missing for WarSource and the Yakima Nation. And then me being there, basically, I'm just doing what's there. You know, being able to just bring veterans together, being able to bring employers together, being able to casework veterans, finding them, employing through removing the barriers that they have. It is a tough job. I'm not going to say it's easy. You know, a lot of outreach, and that's where it's at. To be able to go ahead and build those relationships, we got to be able to go out and be able to engage yourself with the veterans like myself. I joined the Yakima Warriors Association, and they're a very well-known association throughout the whole state. And having been inside of the Yakima Nation, I've been able to exit and with successful stories to a lot of veterans. That have a quick example of a veteran that he was homeless, and then he was able to come into the Yakima Nation, and then he let me know that at the beginning, you know, he had no trust. He had no trust of the outside world. And, you know, I think we all know the historical trauma that went through how inside our tribal areas, it's been a lot of talk and a lot of promises not really followed through. And this, you know, with me being welcome, and I see myself as a guest going in there. I don't see myself, you know, and they tell me, now they tell me I'm their brother, you know, and I take that to heart, because my passion is to help my brothers and sisters out, to find them employment, and to get them housing, to get them utilizing the WDBA grants, such as the VIP grant, the HVRP grant, which I think we know a little bit. They help with fuel, they help with tools, and they help with getting a lot of the some of those bills that some of the veterans can't afford. What's really nice about having to work there and building this partnership now, it straightens time. And the one that I got to thank for this is Sean Marceau. He's the Yakima Nation Veterans programmer, and he's also a Marine. So his mentality and my military mind hook up. We connect. We have that same passion to be able to help our brothers and sisters. And I love the comment that he says, still in the fight. Even though we come out of the theater, you know, and we come back home, transition into the civilian world, we're still in the fight, because we're fight for each other. We support one another. And that's the only way to be able to go forth, to put aside the differences, to be able to, and that's what they see in WorkSource coming in, and they welcome it, and the numbers. There is statistical data now to be able to be read of how many veterans are actually getting subsidized employment. And then we also have the VRNE program. I have work studies in there now, and then so it's a machine that is becoming well oiled, moving forward. And the key to the missing link for this relationship is the CVSR position, because the CVSR position does bring the DevOps and the lever, which I feel like a Cupid. I'm out there, you know, getting the two married up together, and you know, I just enjoyed working there. So the relationship that's being built inside the Yakima Nation is one that's being welcomed, and it's being effective. And I definitely will. If there's any questions later on, I'll answer any of them that I can to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Terry Garcia Hernandez, and I'm the Consolidated Veteran Service Representative for WorkSource Wenatchee and WorkSource Okanagan. And so myself and Eileen, we work with our Colville tribal members. And so our results that we've had from this networking and partnership, the results are that we had our job fair for 2023. It was attended by 68 job seekers, and 50% of the employers and or resources were affiliated with the tribe. 44% of those employers stated that they had interviews lined up or they were on the verge of hiring individuals. I had worked with a veteran who was married to a Colville tribal member, and he was a volunteer fireman. And so he wanted to work with the tribe. And so when you have those great partnerships and you network with your tribal members, such as Lottie Atkins, Laura McLean, when we had our tribal CBSR, we can create those partnerships and network to help those individuals. And so I was able to assist that veteran get hired and become a permanent firefighter for the tribe. Another was a collaboration between not only the tribe and WorkSource, but partnering with other agencies such as SkillSource, which has WIOA funds, the Workforce Innovative Opportunity Act. And so we were able to help that veteran get his certifications so that way he could become an IT support specialist. And so he was able to get an OJT as well and get hired on at $24+ an hour. Okay. Another thing that Eileen and I have done is the Rural Outreach Resources Center in Grand Coulee. And we partner with Sarah Simonson, who is our Douglas County Veterans Service Officer. And so we go there once a month. And so Eileen and I go there to assist our veterans coming in looking for employment opportunities. And Sarah assists with those individuals that may not be able to drive to East Wenatchee or Waterville. And so she comes with us so that way she can assist those veterans. So these are some results for our rural veterans and our tribal members. So if you have any questions, please reach out to myself or Eileen or Otto for the Yakima Nation. All right? Eileen? Otto, sorry.
Guess I get to go again. Going back to the partnerships being developed at the Yakima Nation, there's some pictures here. A picture tells 1,000 words. At the top, the Yakima Nation there with Governor Easley, they were able to get the bill going for the Welcome Home Vietnam veterans, because you all know they didn't get a good welcome. So now they have every year they have a welcoming sort of a where we all gather and we recognize them and we tell wonderful stories. Some of them are heartbreaking, but that's needed to be able to remember, the struggle that they went through. So that was the Yakima Warriors Association. That's the part that I'm proud that I'm part of them too. I'm able to go to their powwows. I'm able to go to their treaty days. I'm able to go to their veterans dinners. I just came back from Camp Chaparral. I encourage every single person in the world to go to that, because it is just such a wonderful rehabilitating place to be able to heal that pain that we all carry. So the partnership with, like I mentioned, Sean Marshall earlier, because of him, I'm there. This is him, Sean Marshall. He's a Gold Star father. I won't go too much into detail. He's a Gold Star father, and for his son, we did a 70-mile march, and I put that's me with the U.S. flag. We went ahead and we partook on that because there were 17 KIA in his son's platoon. That's a big number for a platoon. Platoons are like 30 something. It's 4 squads. 7 for squad, 28, about 30 plus a platoon leader. So, that's a big number. So, we did a 17-mile march to recognize his son. He took that to heart, and I did this because I love him as my brother, and that's how we operate there. And then the middle picture is Treaty Days, and that's the head warrior Victor Wood, and that's an employer in the back. And so, any opportunity that I have to be able to have a table to set up to get employers and veterans and all of these people to help out, I take that opportunity. to heart. And there's Flag Days, and then at the Heritage College we have also Eagle Days where we recognize the veterans students that are going there, so we can maybe hopefully get them to do some work study at either WarSource in Union Gap or the Yakima Nation Veterans Building. The success stories are the ones that I hold dear to heart. You know, going back, there's my very first veteran is a Marine. Yeah, really close. I'm Army, but I love my Marine brothers because we went to combat together in Iraq, and I know what they're all about. They said Marines are coming, enemy's gone. So Army's coming, they're still there, but we take care. It's all good. We take care of business, though. But we take care of business. But we take care of business. Anyways, my Marine brother, he was real quiet, just a young man that came out of the Marines, didn't go through the TAP program, no transition, no nothing. The mom went ahead and got a hold of me, say, Otto, I got my Marine son. He's like, I don't know what to do with him. He's at home. He's really close to in, and he came in the office real shy, but little by little got him to open up. And now he's working at the fishery at the Cleellum as a tech there, and there's a lot to do there in that job, and he's got a future now, utilizing all the resources that I mentioned earlier. Also, there, a veteran husband, another Marine, a lot of Marines in the Yakima Nation, and wife, through their hardship, they have no home, just living in a shack, no vehicle. Utilizing the TARO, which is a huge partner of mine there, the Tribal Employment Rights Office. This group, they train, they do OJT, and they'll put you to work. And that's exactly what they did. And now they're working for the land enterprises, just making okay. They got a vehicle. They got now looking at homes. So the success stories are the ones that catch me to heart. So the other partnerships that we have with the trust, we being able to help the veterans is got to happen quick and effective. The talk can be there, and I tell you, my tribal veteran brothers and sisters, boy, they it's not just a half-hour intake. It turns out to be maybe an hour and a half. It takes a while because they got a story to say, and then you got to listen. So, that is the trust into the developing the relationships. And,
So we're talking developing partnerships and trust. I think the best way that I can talk to that is tell you about how my partnership with the Kavala tribes came about. Just a little background first. When I took this job, our 5-county area had 2 LVRs full-time and 1 half-time LVR. About 10 years in, the powers that be decided they only needed 1 LVR for the 5-county area. So I was a senior person, so that became me. So I effectively picked up 3 additional counties that I had never supported, and I had basically 0 contacts other than the WorkSource. So after some consideration, I decided that doing job and resource fairs would allow me the most opportunity to reach out to the most employers and the most veterans, and would allow me to get to know those local resources and what they had to offer. So once I had decided that, about the same time there was a lot more emphasis being put on reaching out to tribal veterans as well. And I wanted to select an area that had been traditionally underserved. That said, Nisbelum seemed the logical choice. Aside from the fact that it had the Kavala Tribal Government Center right there, it's a definitely very underserved area, and is a hub where Grant, Adams, and Okanagan counties meet. So after I picked Nisbelum, I did a little research and found out that Lottie, the tribal VSO, is actually located right in Nisbelum. So I met with her and pitched my idea, and she liked it. So we called a meeting where she invited other tribal agencies, and I pitched my idea to them, and they liked it, and offered their conference center as a location to do the Job and Resource Fair. So we set a date. That was for April. This was January. As soon as we had a date set, I talked to the Spokane County Vet Center asking if they could bring their office, their mobile office, to the event. Talked to the Okanagan County VSO about coming to the event. And of course, the tribal VSO was already on board to come. And then since we were doing it from scratch, I conducted outreach from OMAC down to Steamboat Rock Park, talking to employers and resources and inviting them to come. The first event was fairly small, but it went well. It's been about 10 years now. It's steadily grown over the years. In fact, our last event in July, we had 2 cancellations the day prior, but had that not been for those cancellations, that conference room would have been at max capacity. So we get lots of support from the tribes. The reason these events are successful are because the tribes and our partnership with the tribes. I have a great partnership with the tribal VSO as well as the tribal DVR. They've been with me from the very beginning with these events from beginning to end. They invite their locals, advertise wisely, invite their agencies to come, to include employers and higher education and resources. Half of our event was tribal at the last one. So they're successful because the tribes make them successful. I do a lot of the legwork and do some of the planning, but they're the ones who make this a success. As for the trust, I think that if you do any event and do it well and do it consistently, the trust just comes as a matter of course. Thank you.
Okay, I think we go to the next slide. No, forward, there we go. So again, thank you, Otto and Eileen. The resources that we provide in conjunction with our tribal members are like Hope Source, which has the SSVF funds, supportive services for veterans and families, HUD-VASH, for housing assistance. We also work with the WDVA. We also work with our veteran service officers from, their respective counties. I work with Tom, even from Tonasket. He's our vet service officer. In communication with Lottie. We work with our VRNE folks in Spokane. And so we also work with like TARA, which is the Tribal Employment Rights Office. And we also work with the tribes and also our other resources for higher education and apprenticeships. So our work with the tribes not only helps us grow, but it also helps the tribes members and staff work with us in order to regain and keep that trust and momentum going. Eileen will be retiring sometime this year, and I hope that I could fill her shoes the best as she has these last 10 years. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate everything that has been presented by our tribal outreach veterans. And if anybody has any questions, please let us know. Hi.
I just happened to be in this room. I didn't realize my name was going to come up so often. But in the beginning, I had a veteran, and he was homeless. So we managed, HUD-VASH came in, so we managed to get him a home. And he talked about having been employed in computers. He knew computer knowledge. So I happened to go to a meeting somewhere, I think it might have been here, and I met WorkSource people, and they said, oh yeah, we can retrain. Well, good. So I went home, and I got this veteran and said, how would you like to refresh your skills? So that's where it all started, was helping this veteran refresh his skills. He got a part-time job in IT. So, you know, we went as far with him as we could. We kind of run into a little bump in the road, but he's still there. He's still got his own house yet, and he's still making, you know, some small progress. You know, way out there, time goes by quickly. But anyway, as a result of all of this Pelham School is going to be starting a high school. So at a tribal meeting somewhere, I met an individual who was interested in training children, and I says, hey, we got children of a lot of veterans. So, like my grandson, who is the son of a veteran, we talked him into going into the fishery programs, and he did 2 years of college at Oregon, and he got into the fishery programs. So I said, we can do that for other kids. So here's in the Pelham School, starting a high school right in the middle of the reservation. So I'm saying, we did this for the job fair, and I've always had an interest in getting these kids educated, employed, right at home. Because why should they have to compete with other people with degrees when they're just as smart? You know, we had the mission school. That was a Catholic school. And those kids, and those parents that went to that school are super smart. Man, when they left that school, they were 1 year ahead of public school. So I figured in my mind, if those parents, these are the kids and the grandkids of those parents, they gotta have intelligence. Let's use it. So my mission today is working to get the children of these veterans, their children and their grandchildren, an education and a job at home, so that we don't have to go anywhere. And so to save our land, to save our way of life. So that's a goal, and these ladies helped me greatly by coming up with a job fair every year. And you know, when we started it, I thought, gosh, are they going to get mad at me for getting everybody together in another meeting, another thing? But I said, Nespelem is way out there. Nobody comes to Nespelem to do a job fair. It's done in Omak, Wenatchee, everywhere else, Spokane. On this people. And I said, we have a big, huge employment agency. We got the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and we have Indian Health Service. So we have a big medical field. We have the Bureau of Indian Affairs with all of its entities. Then we got the tribal government with all of its entities. When you say you're going to go to the tribe and you think, oh, I know so-and-so at the tribe. Well, when you go over there to ask, where does so-and-so work? And they'll say, well, what department? Or what office? Is it in Omak, in Schlim, Keller? So you have to know, because that's a huge place. Has a lot of people working. And I said, so when they say Colville, everybody thinks Colville, Washington. We did a promotion and invited some big name basketball stars. That's where they ended up. Everybody was waiting for them in Nespelem, and they were up at Colville wondering where the tribe was. We're down here waiting for you. So our kids were a little disappointed. But anyway, that's, you know, when I hear how Yakima is working their program, I'm happy, because I've seen these programs go from the ground up, and it's really good that we have WorkSource to give us this little help that we get from them. Well, actually, it's a big help. So, anyway, and then as the programs improve and get better to help veterans, then we can work with all of the rest of the housing and healthcare to make lives for the veterans better. And we don't only serve tribal members, and we don't only serve Indians from other tribes, we also serve non-Indians. So we have, with those, you know, my driver is here today. He's one of our transporters. He is on the go constantly. This is probably the most rest he's had, but his phone keeps going off. So just a little bit about what we do up there at Dispeal, Washington, the center of the Cabo tribe. Thank you.
All right, and if you didn't catch the names, Otto Cruz from Yakima Nation out of the WorkSource Yakima office, Terry Garcia Hernandez out of the WorkSource Wenatchee and OMAC office, and Consolidated Veteran Services Representative Eileen Boylston out of Moses Lake. Thank you guys. All right, our next presenters, we've got John Cruz from WorkSource Everett, Johnny Ankrum from WorkSource Clallam, and Cody Missoura from WorkSource Spokane, going to be talking about the work that we're doing with the incarcerated vet.
Hi, good afternoon, Cody.
Good afternoon, everybody. So as Seth said, my name is Cody Missoura. I'm a DVOP in WorkSource Spokane. Does everybody know what a DVOP is? Does everybody know what a lever is? Does everybody know what a CVSR is? Cool, we'll spare you then. So we're going to be talking about the efforts that we're taking to serve currently incarcerated veterans and veterans that are exiting from incarceration. A couple of our objectives are to acknowledge the pandemic's impact on serving the incarcerated veteran. We're going to talk to you a little bit about initiative that John Cruz spearheaded, essentially a referral process. I can't see over your head. To connect currently incarcerated veterans with veteran case managers, us, the DVOPs, before their release, and the networking that we do with the different partners in our communities for additional connections to make those successful. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Cruz. There's two things you need to know about me. One, I can't say my R's. So I'm not from the Bronx, I'm from Brooklyn, I'm from Texas. So if I talk funny, I apologize. Second, I was in communications in the Marine Corps, so I talk really fast. So if I'm going too fast, let me know, because in my mind, it makes sense. Okay? So, pre-pandemic, what happened to us in Snohomish County, and that's what I'm going to talk about because that's where I'm from, Snohomish County. We used to go try to work with the Monroe Corrections Facility. Okay? Before the pandemic, we saw a van come by the Everett train station, open up, and inmates just leave. Gray sweater, gray bottoms, white sneakers. Some had an envelope, some had a box of possessions. They would get out of the van, they would close the van would drive away. And some of them would just be like, now what? What do I do? And we were just wondering, like, every day, every Tuesday, every Wednesday, that's what happened. And we just didn't know what it was. And we finally learned that that's what the process was. Here's your $40. You go into the train station, you're free, bye. And that's what it was. Some of them will come in later on, some veterans saying, hey, I need help with a job. I've been out for 2 weeks. I've been out for 3 months. I need help. So that's what we would do. We would talk to them like, what were you in for? What can we do for you? We have employers who would really want to work with you, but what can we do for you? We started working with the DOC. We were asking them, like, why does this happen? What is a transition? What do y'all do when they try to get out? I don't know. I've never been incarcerated before. I was in the Corps. Similar, but a little bit different. Okay. Then we learned that there was in 2019, there was about 70 veterans that were incarcerated in the Monroe Corrections. We didn't know about the other states, but just Monroe Corrections. So we were like, how can we talk to them? How can we meet with them? We had a DOC person named Jessica Larson. She was very energetic, very like, I want to help veterans. I want to do something called a mock interview. Can we do that? At the work source, we were like, bet. What can we do? What do we need? Like sign a waiver, ID card, social security? What can we? Like, no, you just need to come. Like, okay, so we did that, and we did like a mock interview training. We had inmates, veterans and non-veterans, come in, had them create a basic resume. We sat them down. It was me, a WIO, case manager, and a person from WorkSource, and we talked to them and said like, what do you do when you get out? What do you do when you're incarcerated? We got them prepared so when they do get out, what to expect from an interview panel. We gave them feedback. You were stuttering, you looked nervous, you kept looking down at your resume, and they liked it. So the next thing we did was a resource fair just for veterans. We got with Jessica. We're like, hey, we want to bring resources into the corrections. Is that possible? Again, do we need a waiver and everything else? Like, no, we can get that going. So we finally got a resource fair going for them. We got the VA there, we got the VBA there, and we were saying that they would come in, we'll get our cards, like, hey, when are you getting out? 6 months, 2 years, 25 years. Okay, we'll get you when you get out, you know? And it was a great experience for me because I was meeting people and veterans from all the services, and I was asking them, what do you need help with? How can we help you? And it's like, well, when I get out, I don't have a place to live. I don't have a place to go. I live in Texas, but my fence was in Monroe, but I'm born in Snow, but from Texas. What can we do? So we gave them our cards, like, hey, man, my name's Cruz. James Lapsley was a leaver. Here are our cards. When you get out, come see us. And there was some people who actually held onto the cards. When this one veteran, an Army veteran came, Brotherhood, he came out, got out of the van, and just walked out. The first thing we did was, hey, come to us. I remember you from the job fair. He was like, yeah, I got your card. And I was like, wow, this is an old one. Okay. I was like, man, all right, I remember you, he came in. We were getting clothing from Edmonds Community College. They do clothing drives. And they donated clothes, ties, jackets, slacks, Armani suits from retired lieutenant colonels who just stopped working. And we got all those clothes and put them in our storage. When that veteran came to me, I said, dude, first things first, let's get you out of those grays. So let's go in here, here's your gray top, gray bottom, sneakers, take that off, and here's some clothes, see what fits you. And he came out, he had like khaki pants and a jacket. I'm like, no. And then all of a sudden we became like a Men's Warehouse thing. We're like, no, we need you to, put the brown one on. No, take that one off. Put this tie on. Okay, cool. At the end of the day, he ended up with a maroon shirt with a brown tie with a black jacket, and his face just was like, thank you, because all he had were those grays, and now he felt like, thank you. I said, we got a job fair coming up. We need you to, get ready. Shake my hand. He was like, why? You haven't done this in a while. Shake my hand. I'm like, okay, look at me in my eyes. Tell me your name. Practice a little bit. I go, when we go to the job fair, I'm going to walk you around to these employers and see what you can do. And he was nervous. So that's okay, man. It's going to happen. Be nervous with me. So when you go to the job fair, you're ready. So he came up, jacket, all smiling like a little 22-year-old. I'm like, yes, let's go. So I took him to these places, and he got a job. He got a job interview with the warehouse person. And I was like, thank you, it helps. And he was like, I held onto your call for a reason because I knew something good would come of it. And I was like, I'm happy we can help you out. Tell your other veterans where we are located at. And that's what happened. Out of the 10 veterans showed up, he was the one that I will always remember because he was always important to me because he was the one that I know that I actually helped in more ways than one. We had plans to keep going once a quarter, biannual, something to keep going to the corrections. But what happened? February, March 2020, pandemic happened. Everything changed. We lost support to those veterans that were incarcerated because we couldn't go to the facilities. Everything was shut down. We had to close everything out. The work sources throughout the state also couldn't take people in, so they closed down. So we were like, how can we get a hold of them? But we never thought about the other side of that coin because when they got dumped off on the van, where were they going to go? They couldn't go to the libraries and find help because the libraries were closed. They couldn't go to the work sources and say, hey, I'm a vet, I need help. Oh, because we were closed. We were something in the context that we had were let go, or they were on furlough, or because of some other reason they went to another position when the pandemic ended. So we were trying to find a way to fix something in a broken system. So then, pandemic ended. Things have changed. Restrictions got looser. We were able to go back in. So we wanted to get back. So we started making phone calls to all the contacts that we had, but of course, some of them were there, some of them weren't. So we started working with Andrew and Misty from the state level and Andrew down in the trenches to see how can we do this again. We knew Jessica Lawson was gone, so Andrew was my new point of contact. And I was like, what can we do? What has changed? What can we do better? And then Andrew and I were talking, and we started off in Snohomish County first. But then King County wanted to come to our meetings. And then all of a sudden, Whatcom wanted to come to our meetings. And then there was the Northern Region that wanted to come to our meetings. So then me and Andrew thought, can we go to the state level? So we got Cody to handle the east side, and I will handle the west side. So now we have a monthly meeting to meet with Andrew and his co-workers, the transition reentry navigators, to meet with us to see how can we get the veterans and services they need when they get out. And now we have a roster and a new process that Johnny is going to talk about right now. Johnny? Don't forgive me, I got to get.
Okay. My head's bigger. Hello, I'm Johnny Ankrum. I'm the Intensive Services Coordinator for the state of Washington with ESD. And my part is pretty basic, but I still feel it's vital. And as I know we like our acronym soups around here, ISC, what do? I do a lot of things besides what just Seth tells me to do, right? So I'm a man of many referrals. So referrals is kind of my bread and butter, as it were. So it just seemed like a natural leap to go ahead and pick this up. Give me the roster. You know, John and I talked about it. I went to one of the meetings and I'm like, give me the roster, man. I can figure this out. So we did that. And so we're going to, once I get the list from the DOC, with their dates of release and their locations, go ahead and change to the next part. I'll then look up each veteran to find out which zip code they're going to get released to. Okay, and then I have a list, the Magic DVOP list. Is that better? All right. So I look up the zip code to find out where they're going to be released at. Then I'll reference the DVOP list that I have for the state to see who the contact for the justice involved veteran would be. All right, so that way we're connecting already with the local WorkSource office. So that could be any of the DVOPs that we have, could be a CVSR, and after finding the appropriate rep for the area, I'll email out the list for the DVOPs to the DVOPs and CVSRs, along with the DOC's reentry navigation officers' contact emails, so they can all talk. The idea is to get the DVOPs and the CVSRs and the DOC folks talking about the perspective, the justice involved veteran to try to give them some wraparound services, right? So, like I said, go ahead and switch to the last one. Our hope with all this is, and you guys see a theme here, right? Let's get these guys services. Let's get them whatever they need to be successful to go live their best life. Find meaningful employment. Get housing. As we all know, they're coming out with nothing. So, this can be beneficial for them due to all the local connections that our veteran service representatives have. They're connected to all kinds of resources from housing to shelter. Food, whatever local veteran services, veteran service officers, etc. I mean, the list goes on and on. Like I said, we've been kind of beating the drum about that today, but it's important. These little things matter, and just one basic step is going to help them. Okay, so that being said, we're just starting this referral process. I literally just sent this list out for the first time last week, and I was really surprised and honored and just happy that everybody was so receptive of it. Everybody's like, yeah, it's about time we're doing this. So super excited. That's, we're going to meet back on the 31st to check on the progress. And there's already some improvements that we're finding a little bit. One of the referrals is not actually eligible for DVOP services, but that's okay, because we still got to connect with that office, and you're still going to get those services that they need to be successful and reintegrate. Thank you all.
So now I'll talk a little bit about the current state. So like Cruz and Johnny said, so we have our monthly case staffing meetings between Department of Corrections and the DVOPs and CVSRs. We're doing that the last Thursday of every month. My reentry navigator, his name is Brandon Wells. I haven't met you, Andrew. So yeah, we're doing that, and I'm just trying to follow along with the PowerPoint here, but not to repeat anything. And in that, we really just talk about like, this veteran's getting out, how can we best serve, and just bounce ideas off of each other, because we all work with different resources, but being that they do the west side of the state, the east side of the state, we're more familiar with the resources that we have among each other. So it really just helps to, collaborate. In this collaboration, a lot of the resources that we try to focus on initially are like housing resources, because obviously when you're getting released from incarceration, you need to make sure that veterans have housing, right? So in my county, Spokane County, I work really closely with supportive services for veteran families and the healthcare for homeless vets. We've also started to make connections with those transitional houses. So House of Mercy, Pioneer Human Services. We have a work release facility for men, it's Brownstone. For women, it's Eleanor Chase. So we just try to bridge, that gap, make those relationships and say, hey, if you do get veterans, please refer them to us. So I can start working with them on their job search, and we can make sure that they're getting the resources that they need throughout the veteran community, whatever it looks like. Even if they're not necessarily looking for anything job specific, we know where to find all of the resources. Another thing that we're really trying to work on with our reentry navigators and the Department of Corrections is communicating all of the different events and resources that are happening in our counties and in our communities. So resource fairs, job fairs, different workshops that WorkSource or any of our partners offer, just to give additional resources. It's all about resources. It's all about wraparound services to serve our veterans, right? And to make them successful in whatever it is that they want to do now that they've been released after incarceration. Now, Cruz is going to talk to you a little bit about future plans and kind of what we're working on a little bit more.
Again, so as you heard before, we have a new process with the roster for the veterans that are going to be getting out 30 to 90 days out. So we already are on that side, but we want to go bigger. We want to do better. So we are trying to even work with the transitional navigators, case managers at the DOC, and maybe set up like a virtual meeting 3 to 6 months out, the other direction. So when they are getting ready to get out in March, come January, hey, my name is Cruz, nice to meet you. Remember the mug, okay? When you get out of Snohomish County, come see me. When you get out of Whatcom, go see Paul Pilo. So they get a face-to-face, so when they come out or see him at the Safeway, like, hey, I know you, I need to see you next week, kind of thing. That's what we want. We want to make sure that those veterans have a place to go, have a person to talk to. Because when they get out, they're by themselves, sometimes they get scared. I know I do. I know I did when I got out of the service, and I was in the service. I can't imagine what it's going to be like when they're incarcerated and getting out. We want to get back to the resource fairs. We want to get back into the correction, Monroe, and the other ones that are throughout the state. We want to get back to it because we know those resource fairs are actually a positive thing. Y'all heard the story from before. He held that card 3 months, 6 months, 2 years. He held on to it because he knew I can have somebody to help. And that was a great thing. But again, that was just one of my stories. I mean, Cody was telling about a story she had before, so go ahead.
So this one, and I think this really showcases why it's important to try to reach veterans before their release. So this veteran, he was really proactive and he reached out to us. He had his family look up veteran resources. They found a resource for the Homeless Veteran Reintegration Program. He wrote a letter to the Eastern Washington Homeless Veteran Reintegration Program case manager. He said, this is my name, this is when I'm getting out. I would love any assistance that you can offer. She gave me his address, right, because it's all snail mail. I wrote him a letter. I said, this is my name, this is what I do, this is how I can help you when you're released. Here's a resume workbook, here's an interviewing workbook. Hit me up when you're out, right? So a couple months later, I have a voicemail. It's like, hey, Cody, this is da-da-da-da-da. I've been released. Please give me a call. We can make an appointment at, your earliest convenience. And I was like, holy moly, like he really reached out. I was kind of shocked, but he was so motivated, so determined between the services that I could offer, the services that WorkSource could offer, that WIOA could offer, that the Homeless Veteran Reintegration Program could offer, that the Spokane County Regional Veteran Services Center could offer. This veteran is re-employed. He works for Hobart. He was able to get re-licensed as a low voltage electrician, get his OSHA certification, first aid CPR, like you name it, the resource was provided to him. He's working for Hobart now. He's making $65,000 a year, you know. This all started before he was released from incarceration. So if we're able to reach these veterans at this stage, it's huge. You know, we have the success stories to prove it. So now we just need to figure out the best way to do it.
Thank you. And the last thing is kind of like a veteran orientation meeting before they get out. Have the VA go in and work with them about their VA claims, because I did not know this, that if you are service connected with the VA of a rating of 30% and you get incarcerated, that lowers to 10%. I never knew that. So what does that mean when you get out? The VA doesn't know that you got out last week, last month, last year. So for all that time, you're on 10%. Why can't we get the VBA into the office and say, before you do, sign these documents so when you get out in a month or two, you'll go back up to your original rating? It's not your fault that, well, some things happen, so you always want to make sure that you can move forward. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, and then again, housing programs. When they get out, some of them have housing vouchers, some of them have places to go. The majority of them don't, and they become homeless. So we want to make sure we get to the housing programs in there as well. So like an orientation of some sort, once a quarter, once a year, something like that. And even training programs. I know Edmonds Community College used to go to the Monroe Corrections and provide education so they can get some kind of certificates, because education is always important. So again, something like that as well. Again, we are looking to the future. Any ideas that we have or any ideas that y'all might have, bring it to us, bring it to anybody, to your leadership. I'm not the guy who wants credit. I want to make sure veterans get help. So, again, closing comments. Right now, there are 12 correction facilities in the state of Washington, 10 for men, 2 for female. There are 925 incarcerated veterans right now. 175 of them are going to be released within the year. I believe if we can get help to one veteran, that's one less veteran who's homeless. That's one less veteran who doesn't feel like he's lost in the battlefield. That's one veteran who knows that his brothers and his sisters can be a source that they can tell their other veterans about. And if I think we can get that one, it was a successful referral. It was a successful program, and in my industry, in human services and employment services and housing resource navigators, I think it would be a great success for myself. So with that being said, thank you for your time. If you have any questions,
Good afternoon, my name is Sonny Carden. I'm the Veterans Advocate for the Colville Confederate Tribes. I work with Lottie Atkins. I was just curious, a lot of the incarcerated veterans go to prison, but they also come back and face charges with the Colville Confederate Tribes, which means they have to come and sit at the Colville jail. Do you guys offer that stuff for like the reservations, say Yakima Nation, Spokane, the Colville Tribes? Because a lot of the veterans face charges after they get out of the correctional facilities. So I was curious about that.
I cannot speak on that because, again, I don't work with the Colville Nation. However, I do have somebody who does.
And I've been able to meet with the Colville program veteran representative from that area too. He's outstanding. And at the Yakima Nation, we do have veterans that are incarcerated, and we do have programs for them. And the Walla Walla VA has stepped up. And got an example. I got a veteran. He was one of my ones that success story. He was homeless. We ended up getting him with the hot bash tribal. He lived at the Pato. village over in Wapato, and then he ended up getting a tarot training, OJT, $44 an hour later. He was doing great, you know. But because of that PTSD and that deployment, some bad decision happened, and ended up getting in trouble. Ended up going to the Yakima County Correction Facility, and then from there, he ended up facing prison time because because of prior things. So the Walla Walla VA stepped in. Diane Goodnight, she's just outstanding, and she told me she's the one that basically helps veterans, and then she's the case work manager for our whole area. And I believe if we go ahead and reach out to her, she can go ahead and play some of those whatever resources are there for our tribal, because that was my main thing too at the beginning when I started getting the Department of Corrections, like our teams meetings is like, what about the tribe? What about, because we have a lot of veterans that are there too. So that's in the works, and I believe if we keep pushing that forward direction, it'll happen for them too. Cool.
Hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Is there anything else? Anybody else? That means
All right, thank you. Give us 1 second. We're going to switch to a panel real quick. We're just going to move some tables around, and then we're going to get this panel going. All right, so if you remember, I'm Seth. I'm the awesome Seth, your moderator. This is a big panel. This is going to be very challenging to be able to get all of these questions in here. But my goal is to get a couple questions going, because I'm hoping I can get some questions from all of you in the audience to ask some questions to this panel. So thank you. I'm going to begin with our tribal population. Besides the unique challenges faced by anyone living in a rural setting, what additional challenges are faced by Native American veterans? Who'd like to answer that one?
I think one of the bigger challenges is that lack of trust. I think that they miss out on taking advantage. There's resources out there, a lot of resources that are available that they qualify for, but because of that lack of trust in the government as a general rule, I think that they just head the other direction.
And yes, definitely right on the nail in the head. The trust. The trust has been gone for quite a while, and we're regaining that. And with WorkSource being in there and being able to help the veterans, the families see that, and their children see that. I see the moms bringing the little ones, and then the tribal members are very traditional. They pass on, the good to the children, and so them seeing that their family members are being taken care of, that it starts like right there. Say, hey, if somebody's taking care of my mom, they're bringing us resources, and then as they grow up, it's all we're imprinting right now, and that is much needed to be able to. But those are the little bit of that trust. That is the main thing. A lot of this, but you gotta show. It's not just all talk. You gotta get her done.
Thank you, Otto. On moving over to the Department of Corrections side, we did discuss some of the challenges with the pandemic and how that caused some challenges to gaining access to the veteran incarcerated. But I'm kind of curious, post-pandemic, are there still pandemic-related barriers that are existent to the justice-involved veteran upon release? You want to try, Misty? Thank you.
I can take a few. Again, like you said, I think Cruz mentioned we used to have resource events inside, and so we could bring our community partners inside so that the individuals would have contact. They would have a face to put, to those agencies.
A lot of our counselors, they work inside, so they're not connected to the community, or maybe they're releasing from Walla Walla and they're coming over to the western side of the state. Those counselors may not know what's available. You give resources inside the facility, and these flyers live on for the next 10 years, and you provide that flyer to somebody and it's a dead end road for them. So we still run into situations like that. We still don't have the resource events live and having folks coming into our facilities, but we have started doing the virtual resource events. And so we're letting folks send us a video clip and then being able to present it, but it's not the same. And then I think somebody mentioned just the access to resources. It might seem like the simplest thing, but when I came to the agency in 2015, it was your $40 gate money and your good luck plan. Our population's coming out, and some of them don't know where they're going. They don't have access to a cell phone. They don't know where they're going to get their next meal. Or maybe they're coming out on a Friday and you're thinking, well, I'm going to try to make it to DSHS, but DSHS doesn't open until Monday. So how am I going to get those resources or that food to get me through the weekend? Some of them come out with that envelope that you've seen in their hand, but in their envelope, did they have an ID card? Some of them don't have an ID card or social security card. And those are still things that impact them to today, is making sure that we're trying to make sure that they have all of those things in place. So those are still some of the post-pandemic, I guess, things that I see. Andrew?
And I think just to add on that, DOC took quite a bit of a hit in staffing levels. So programming inside a facility is still lower than it used to be pre-pandemic. And yeah, staffing levels really contribute to the lack of options available in a facility currently.
Just working with the veterans that are in transitional housing, especially if, and even, still, if one person in the transitional housing or in their work release building tests positive for COVID, they're all on lockdown. And I've worked with a handful of veterans that now they can't come to the job fair. They can't meet me at WorkSource. They can't, do what they need to do because now they're on lockdown because of the pandemic. So that is still a really big barrier in those transitional housings.
Thank you. So with those identified, what do you think is, of those challenges, what's the biggest hurdle to overcome for that veteran?
I think just piggybacking on what I just said, I think the biggest hurdle in that instance is digital literacy and access to internet in those facilities also. They have really limited access. And then even if they are at home, a lot of them don't have the digital literacy, so I can't be like, well, let's just jump on and meet virtually, because they're like, can't do it. So I think that that's a barrier in that instance.
Thank you. All right, we got a question.
Yes, I'm Glenn Hayes, Pierce County, and I work for DSHS, and so in Pierce County, what we do, we have when someone's staying to get out of prison, we have them put in an application early, so that way they can get a EBT card before they even get out of prison. So that's what we do in Pierce County. Second thing is wondering about do we have a contact for WorkSource in Pierce County?
Yes, we do. Just not on board.
Is that you, John?
Right here. Right there. Okay. And that's networking, people. That's networking right there.
Hey, I didn't know it, man. Thank you. I'll give you a call.
Yep, as John mentioned, that's networking right there in action. Fantastic. So there's 29 federally recognized tribes. However, in just the Colville Reservation and the Yakima Nation, that represents 26 tribes. And I know there's more than 3 other tribes in here. So can you maybe explain to the audience the federal recognition of the tribes and how there could be some unrecognized tribes in their state?
So for that one, I actually called Sean Marceau and I asked him, and he told me, he says, Otto, he says, it'll be easy to explain that one. They're all military. They all know what a brigade is. They all know how a brigade has companies, and how a company has platoons, and then you got squads. And that's basically how it's broken down, down to the lowest level maybe some that are not recognized quite yet, but they still receive the services. There may be some that, like for instance, from Colville might come over to Yakima, and then they'll enroll members. They'll go ahead and get services there also. And then Yakima, have one in Spokane, and then he's getting services there too. So to explain it, yes, there is that's how it's broken down, and that's how there are some that are dependent on the treaties, how they're recognized. They're all recognized, and then there are some that are still in the being serviced. No matter what, they'll still get help.
And I saw a hand up back here.
Thank you, is it Magnificent Seth? Thank you. Thank you, Otto, Eileen, Terry, John, Cody, Andrew, Misty. I have a question for DOC. So, Andrew, Misty, if you could dream up the best partnership and the best way for WorkSource to show up for our veterans who are justice involved, without thinking about resources, what would that look like?
So, a perfect partnership we're actually kind of in the process of making. Misty and I, we work with a group called the Reentry Navigators. And essentially, we meet with veterans 90 days prior to release, identify needs, goals, and then we work on building the tools to address those. We have an incredible partnership with the DVA. So, as Cruz mentioned earlier about benefits getting reinstated, we're working on streamlining that process. We work with the VA as well to help out with health insurance. So for a perfect partnership with WorkSource and ESD, it is finding those people on our caseload that can work, that are willing to work, that qualify for your program, and bringing them to the table. A big part of our process is a pre-release meeting called a reentry team meeting, where we get all the partners together. We introduce the individual to everybody that's going to be working with them prior to release, and then our team, we follow up with them post-release. So with WorkSource, we're making sure that, hey, did you go through that office? Did you talk to Cruz? Is he helping you? And if he's not, let us know. And kind of building it from there. Right now, we're at the very beginning stages of this partnership. So far, it's been pretty successful. We have our 2 specialists that reach out, East and West Side. Currently, we have access to the WorkSource staff across the state. They've been great partners in helping us connect those veterans to employment and doing that case management follow-up in the community.
Okay, I'm going to stick with the DOC question follow-up here, because we talked about connecting to these veterans 90 days before release. They're released. What if they don't participate? Are they at risk of being in violation of something if they choose not to participate?
Before you answer, I'm sorry for interrupting. Can I have you guys on the end, if you speak, can you stand up? Because I see nothing but heads. Thank you.
There's no violation process for not working with us. Our program is completely voluntary. However, we're really good at encouraging people to work with us because we've been able to show the benefits and the success stories.
And then Johnny, is there any time limit for that veteran who's been incarcerated and they choose not to engage with you? Is there a time limit when they can come back and see you?
No, it's indefinitely. So, and I just remembered one alibi. We started out with 26, so it's our first 26 that we just got referred to. So we'll see how it goes. And I hope they'll have some cool stories to share. I'm so new, I don't have anything really to say. So that's my piece, so thanks.
So yes, so no risk, and they still have access to the DVOP, even if it's years ever, forever.
Yeah, Thor in the back, sorry. Awesome stuff. Yeah, Paul Thorpilo, Depop in Bellingham. They're laughing because I say this every time. This question's for DOC, and it might be an obvious question, but is there a process for the veteran when they're transitioning out of jail to get like their DD-214? Because as veterans, we know like nothing happens without the DD-214. And I can always get it from WDVA in a short time, but it'd be awesome to have it like even come in-house for services. Thank you.
Only one mic.
All right, so we identify, so we do a cross match and we identify the veterans on the front end. And so we provide them as soon as they come into our reception center, we give them a veteran flyer that lets them know about the benefits, as well as, accessing a DD-214. We've established a kiosk box. We have a kiosk, we call it a kiosk box. So the individuals, while they're incarcerated, they can message this box and say, hey, I'm having issues, maybe I need a DD-214, or maybe I'm having, I want to check into my benefits. We're able to respond to that, but on the front end, we're also doing that cross match. We're reaching out to them and saying, hey, do you have a DD-214? If you don't, then we automatically will work with them to submit for it. Then we store it in a system called our on-base, and then when they go to release or transition out, we add that to their release package so that they walk out with that, because we know that that's crucial for them accessing services.
Hi, my name is Lee Williams. I work with the Incarcerated Veterans Reentry Program out of the King County WDVA office, and work with Andrew and some of the folks up here around release from folks from DLC. I just want to let folks know that resource is there. Our concentration is working with veterans who are currently incarcerated in King County jails, and so we go into the jails and get folks enrolled in our program, and we do our assessment there. And very similar to some of the work that folks were talking about for DLC release. And that way, when folks come out, they have a place to go. We work closely with William Booth Center and some of the other shelter systems in Seattle, and work with folks who might be released out of DLC to King County as well. But just want to let folks know that resource is there. I'm not sure who the new DVOP is for King County. Or who the new, there was somebody that was coming to our office. I know there was a...
Carlitos.
All right. We're going to connect. But yeah, so that resource is there as well. I know we haven't mentioned King County, but I want to let folks know there is a resource there, particularly for the jails, and we work closely around folks coming out of DLC.
Perfect, thank you. Yes, we have Carlitos Grant out of King County, so we do have a DVOP in that area.
Hi, another question for corrections. You guys are so popular today. I'm Dave Sturgill with the Kittitas County Veterans Coalition, and I heard a lot about veterans coming out of jail. I have the opposite problem. I have a veteran in our county jail going to prison. And we've heard at these conferences throughout the years of the efforts. We've heard that some of the state facilities have special veteran cell blocks, and so on and so forth. But as we've tried to navigate that system with this incarcerated veteran, neither our county jail nor anyone else we've talked to knows how to get him into one of the better facilities that has better veterans care, and even how to identify that for him. To our county jail people, they say the corrections intake process is completely opaque to them, and they have no control over where he goes or anything else. And the judge says that too. So what can I do to make sure this guy who's going away for several years gets into your system correctly and gets the best services from corrections at that time?
So yeah, DOC is a big system. It's completely understandable. It's a little overwhelming. For your individual that you're talking about, you need to tell them to talk to his classification counselor, which is basically a case manager that helps dictate where somebody would go through the correction system in Washington State and ask to apply for the veterans pod. To do that, he's going to need proof of his military service, so DD-214, make sure he's got it, and tell him to mind his P's and Q's, because we have, on the east side of the state, Coyote Ridge is a minimum facility, so you can only be there if you're on your best behavior kind of thing. And if he wants to be on the west side of the state, then we have a veterans pod at Stafford Creek. But yeah, it's application. I'll give you my business card even after this, and you'll have my information as well.
Hey Seth, I don't want you to have to run again. How many counties in Washington have vet court, so we can try to keep these veterans out of the system. I know
Just,
King County-
just to repeat his question, how many vet corps are in the counties to keep those vets out of incarceration?
Is that Veterans Court?
The Veterans
Where
Court.
they try to mitigate the charges and work with them, especially if they have PTSD or trauma. They have it in King County, but I don't know.
They got it in Pierce, they got it.
I guess my experience with the Veterans Courts program is they're grassroots efforts. They're all individual in their local communities, and it's going to only have an influence in that local community's jail system. Any other questions?
Nah. Meet him
Sorry,
halfway.
Tim, ladies first.
Hello, my name is Zoe. I am what's called an SEO, which is a school certifying official. I help veterans who are wanting to go back to school certify their paperwork, help them through all that process. I just had a quick question. I heard Cruz mention it a little bit, the VRNE program. We do the education part of it, but sometimes we have veterans that come that just are looking to get a job or get a career, and they think education is the next step, but they have the qualifications, they need that, just need that extra step. And I know there's other programs offered through the VRNE program. I just didn't know if you guys had any way I could reach out to somebody and get that information on what those other programs are.
I'm sorry, I'm not part of the panel, but I just want to speak about the services available through WorkSource on top of the DEVA, NEVA, CVSRs. If you send those populations that you're serving veterans to WorkSource and all they need is to get some training, certification, some quick skills to get employed, there's multiple programs, over 5, that are designed to serve them. And remember, veterans always have priority service. So they will get served first by any federally funded program. So if they come to WorkSource, if they come to see a DEVA or a DEVA, they will get them in touch with WIO or WIO Title I services or other programs available, where they'll be able to have a case manager work with them, help them get the certifications they need, place them in short-term training, get them certified, and then help them get a job, in this case.
Tim.
Yeah, my name's Tim Kirschkin. I'm with the Washington State Department of Veteran Affairs. I am the incarcerated reentry for the veterans reentering the program manager here. So I have the whole state, and I work with Andrew and the navigators on the east and west and do the reentry team meetings. I'm also I visit the facilities at least once a year. We visited in April and took Cody with us. And she was very helpful in explaining the WorkSource program in Airway Heights. So I just wanted to introduce myself, and if you had any questions. Also want to clarify that those in county, maybe they're waiting for their sentence, they haven't had their court date yet. Until they've actually been sentenced and have a felony, the VA pay is reduced on that 61st day. So just because they're in jail doesn't mean they can't receive those benefits. A lot of people think they are, cut off, but a lot of times the obstacle is the communication between the jail and getting it out to the outside and get back to the VA, what their needs are. And sometimes in the prison system, like they will come into the reception center at Shelton and then be transferred to way across the Coyote Ridge on the east side of the state, and then they're maybe going to re-enter in the west side again. So there's a lot of things that we've come a long ways from these last couple of years, and like I said, we are building a system, and I'm partnering with all these individuals here, and I think we're always looking for new ideas, and so I think this is a great venue, and I just want to introduce myself as for some of you have not seen me before.
I want to thank the panelists that are here. Thank you all. This is a very big panel, and every one of you got a chance to speak, so I'm really glad we got to do that. For our audience here, this is a big audience, so thank you all for taking the time to be here and listen to this topic. Thank you. I'm glad you all agree that this is a hard-to-reach population, and it's a population that we're not going to stop serving. I have one final question before we go ahead and release you, and I'm going to put the big boss on the spot here. So, Cammie. after listening to the presentation today, if you had a magic wand, okay, what shared goal would you like to see everyone in this room work towards to enhance the quality of life for a hard-to-reach veteran?
Clone jump cruise.
Christmas bonus.
All right, so cruise has a Christmas bonus, but you know, I think the shared goal is that we really partner in a strong way, because I heard networking and connections, and I think this was a really good demonstration where some of that has happened, and there's probably even more we can do with other folks that are in the room. So my big goal is that we get out of our silos and we partner to the full extent that we can. And we're going to get out of our silos. That's my goal, because we can do so much more together. And I don't want us to have to come to a conference like this to learn who the key people are that are doing this work. So I don't want someone to have to say, like, is there someone in the Pierce WorkSource office? Yes, there is. And bringing that together, I think, is just really my wish for all of us. So that's my goal. Thanks for letting me answer that question. Like, I wasn't quite prepared, but I appreciate you, and I just appreciate all of you being here. You all did an awesome job. Thanks for the work that you do every single day. I just appreciate it.
All right, thank you. It is 4:15. I got you out here on time. Post.